Now on 12 News at 5, President Donald Trump already impeached in the House of Representatives. Now it's the Senate's turn. The latest on the trial and reaction from local leaders.
And the right to free speech. A local congressman meets with the president of BU after protests, heated exchanges, and 2 people arrested on campus back in November.
Plus a deadly virus sickening hundreds and killing 6 people in Asia. Now the first confirmed case here in the U.S. 12 News at 5 begins right now.
From WBNG, your weather authority, this is 12 News at 5.
And now at 5, we start tonight with the impeachment trial of President Donald Trump as it gets underway on the Senate floor.
It's been more than a month since the House passed 2 articles of impeachment against the president.
They include obstruction of Congress and abuse of power.
Now the beginning of the Senate trial, and first, the rules.
Senate Republican leaders announcing changes to their rules resolution, but not after some pushback from party moderates.
Natalie Brand is on Capitol Hill with the latest.
Then, Mr. Cipollone, your
House managers and the White House legal team have begun making their cases during debate over a resolution to set impeachment trial rules.
Are we here before this great body because since the president was sworn into office, there was a desire to see him removed?
But on Article 2, we heard the president, he can do whatever he wants. You want to say that's okay? Then you got to say that every future president can come into office and they can do the same thing.
The resolution will now allow each side up to 3 days to present 24 hours of opening arguments after pushback from moderate Republicans. The House impeachment record will also now automatically be admitted into the evidence.
This is the fair roadmap for our trial.
The McConnell resolution will result in a rush trial with little evidence in the dark of night.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer will offer amendments requiring witnesses and documents at the outset of the trial, despite the majority leader's threat to table them. The president's defense team in a legal brief argued both articles, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, are not impeachable and accused Democrats of, quote, a dangerous perversion of the Constitution. President Trump weighed in on impeachment while meeting with world leaders in Davos, Switzerland.
That whole thing is a total hoax. So I'm sure it's going to work out fine.
Opening arguments are expected to begin Wednesday afternoon. Senators will leave their electronics in this cabinet and sit silently during the marathon trial proceedings. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And tonight we're hearing from local leaders as the impeachment hearings continue.
That's right. 12 News reporter Cal Domowski is live in the newsroom. Cal, what are they telling you tonight?
Local representatives Tom Reed and Anthony Brindisi were in town today for separate events, but shared their thoughts as today's impeachment trial started. Republican Representative Reed told 12 News he opposes the impeachment process, calling the Senate hearing, quote, nuclear option. Reed also called to attention the strength of the country's economy under the president, saying he'd put it up against any economy in history. The 23rd District representative is wary of the president's rhetoric, but believes his ideology can be beneficial for the country.
I am concerned about the rhetoric just like many other of my fellow Americans. But at the end of the day, I look at the results and the philosophy that he brings to the table. And that, to me, is the philosophy that will serve us well for generations to come.
Democratic Representative Brindisi voted for impeachment back in December. He said in a statement the decision caused him, quote, pain. Today, the congressman saying his decision to impeach won't affect working with the administration to get work done.
I felt that very difficult decision. I felt we had to follow the rule of law, and I had to follow my conscience. Having said that, I'm going to continue to work with this administration.
The Senate today deliberated the rules of the impeachment trial. I reached out to Mayor Richard David's office for a comment. The mayor is currently on his way to the nation's capital for a conference of mayors later this week. He tells me they will have reaction from Washington sometime either Thursday or Friday. Broome County Executive Jason Garner's office declined to comment on the impeachment trial today.
All right, Cal, thank you very much. Let's bring in Howard now. Kind of a cold day out there. Yeah.
It was frigid this morning.
Frigid.
Yeah, it was a bitter cold morning here. Some places down near zero. I wouldn't doubt it if a few places were below zero this morning. But take a look at what's going on right now. Very wintry looking scene. Looking across Johnson City there. A little bit of sunshine out there through some high clouds. We're looking at a temperature right now of 21 degrees. Northwest wind at 6 miles an hour. And you can see the clouds are still in place right now with some hints of clearing out there. But overall, weather is going to be very quiet here tonight. 21, as we mentioned in Binghamton. You can see relatively universal temperatures here throughout the Northeast and the Great Lakes. As we get into later parts of the week, that begins to change. Evening forecast shows some clouds around. We're into the upper teens by 11 o'clock. And are we still keeping an eye on some snow for the weekend? We'll let you know.
All right, Howard, tonight Main Street between Beethoven and Schiller Streets in Binghamton is back open. Closed this afternoon because of a police investigation. Police tell us they are investigating an incident but will not say what happened. They do say no injuries were reported. Stay with 12 News as we work to learn more.
An update right now to last night's breaking news at 11. Here's the scene. State police say there were no injuries after that car you see there backed into a tractor trailer in Endwell last night, happening around 10:30. This is at the intersection of North Street and Moore Avenue. As again, we said state police on the scene and said the driver didn't see the tractor trailer and ended up right underneath it. State police calling this incident minor.
One Central New York deli got knocked out of business yesterday by a tractor trailer. Only the owner and his wife were inside the Slice and Go deli when a truck crashed into it. Luckily, no one was hurt in the crash, but the deli has some serious damage. It's completely leveled in some parts. The restaurant owner describes what it was like when the semi hit the building.
I started down the alleyway, then all of a sudden a loud boom. And it hit us, hit the building and everything. The whole building collapsed, of course. And then everything was on top of us, and I said to my wife, I made sure she was all right. I said, we got to get out of here because we smelled gas. So we immediately climbed out and there was an opening at the south end of the building.
Heppel says the most important thing is there were no injuries. He also says he was planning to retire at the end of March anyway, so this just speed things up a bit.
An 11-year-old girl is dead and a firefighter seriously hurt after a fire at a Brooklyn apartment building. Take a look. Officials say those flames broke out around 10:30 last night, spreading quickly through the three-story apartment. Firefighters finding that young girl unconscious when they were able to knock down the flames, rushing her to a local hospital where she was later pronounced dead. A firefighter also seriously hurt had to be pulled from the home. We're told he's expected to recover. Tonight, the cause is under investigation.
Tonight, an update on a fire on Staten Island we first brought you last night. Hundreds of New York firefighters battled fast-moving flames that started in one house and spread to at least 7 others. Officials say 19 people, including 18 firefighters, suffered minor injuries. The fire was first reported around 3 p.m. yesterday on Staten Island, and within 30 minutes, a 5th alarm had been sounded. The fire department says wood construction in the attics allowed the fire to spread quickly through the roof. One resident ran back into his burning home to save his brother, who was sleeping inside.
I was in the shower and whatnot, relaxing. I started smelling something. I hear the fire go off, the alarm. So I ran downstairs and his door was shut. He was sleeping, so I ran back in the house as the fire was going. I ran up to his room. I ripped him out of the bed. I said, come on, we got to go. The house is on fire.
It took hours for firefighters to control the blaze. Nearly 30 people have been displaced. The cause of the fire still under investigation. Binghamton University's campus erupted into protests back in November and started a national conversation about free speech.
And today, that conversation reignited by a U.S. congressman visiting BU.
12 News reporter Josh Rosenblatt joins us with what Representative Tom Reed had to say. Josh.
Even though Representative Reed's congressional district doesn't cover Vestal, he told me he felt compelled to stand up for conservative students and their right to free speech. The congressman met with University President Harvey Stenger this afternoon to discuss the school's response to the protests last year, as well as how the university plans to promote free speech moving forward. The protests erupted after 2 conservative groups tabled on campus in an area the university says they did not have permission to. Progressive students forced them to stop and shut down the economist Art Laffer's planned speech the next week. Acts Reed says were reprehensible.
On behalf of the folks that we represent, as well as the House of Representatives, to say an economist of that stature to be brought into this forum and to be treated that way is completely unacceptable, and it doesn't represent what higher education should be about.
Reed also met with the university's chapter of the College Republicans, one of the groups tabling that says their members' right to free speech was silenced. Coming up on 12 News at 6, we hear from the College Republicans for the first time about the events in November and what they believe it says about the state of higher education in our country.
All right, Josh, tonight Representative Anthony Brindisi is back from Washington, D.C.
He is, and it is all to answer your questions.
12 News reporter Katie Jones joins us live, where another town hall is expected to kick off in just a bit at Maine Endwell Middle School. Katie.
Yeah, it's been a busy time in Washington, D.C. between impeachment proceedings and working to pass legislation. But Representative Anthony Brindisi is back in Broome County. And tonight, he'll be holding a town hall meeting at 5:30. That's in just about under 30 minutes at Maine Endwell Middle School. He'll be answering any questions you may have. But tonight, I will be talking to him about how he's working to help an older working population. He just recently helped pass the Protecting Older Workers Against Discrimination Act in the House. And while it still has to be passed by the Senate and signed by the President, the bill brings additional protections to prevent age discrimination in the workplace. And coming up tonight at 11, I will be chatting with Congressman Anthony Brindisi about how that bill could affect folks right here in the Southern Tier. But for now, live in Endwell, Katie Jones, 12 News.
All right, Katie, thank you.
Next at 5, a new case of a deadly virus.
Yeah, this time the CDC says it is here in the U.S. What they're saying about this virus, that's next.
But first, a live look across Johnson City. Wow.
Ooh,
look at that sunset.
It's even more gold than yesterday.
More golden. Another bright day. Howard, we'll be back with the forecast right here on 12 News, your weather authority.